Do you wonder if you're the best version of yourself? This is the question we seek to answer in this podcast. We reveal information that helps you recover your health and become resilient. Modern life makes us fragile. Our diet, lifestyle, and environment set us up for failure. We do not accept this. We seek optimization. We strive to become dynamic. Hey, what's going on? Dr. Chris here. Do you experience cold hands or cold feet? This may be called Raynaud's phenomenon, and there's multiple causes. There's primary and secondary, but one thing that may be contributing to it or causing it potentially is how you breathe. Now, there are certain autoimmune conditions and anxiety and things like that that can contribute to it or cause it in the first place. But I will say that doing some breath work, the right type of breath work, can improve it regardless of the cause in the first place. Raynaud's is a circulation issue, so that means that the vasculature of your hands and feet, which is, by the way, the periphery of your body has the smaller vasculature. The closer you are to your heart, the bigger the vasculature is. So the smaller vessels are affected first. And so what happens is you get an overconstriction of them due to things like stress or cold exposure. In fact, there's something called the mammalian dive reflex, or the diving response. So what that means is that when you're in cold water, cold temperatures, your body makes a decision to prioritize your vital organs. So it'll start to shunt your blood to your core to keep the temperature up for all your vitals. And then that'll sacrifice your limbs, because at the end of the day, that body is meant to survive, and it says, what's more important, my heart or my feet? And it's going to choose your heart every time. So that's what Raynaud's is basically an exaggerated version of that reflex. Now, if you've been listening to my podcast for a while, you are very aware that I'm into breath work. I find breath so fascinating. It's so powerful. And I've been doing a deep dive on it lately as well. And what I've come to realize is there's three domains of breathing. There's the biomechanical domain. So that's, do you chest breathe or belly breathe at rest? There is the biochemical dimension or domain, which is the effect on your blood gases and CO2 and oxygen. And then there's the psychophysiologic domain. That's really, how your mood, your anxiety controls your breath, and vice versa. And the cool thing about all these is they're bidirectional. So one can feed into the other. So you can almost induce anxiety by breathing rapidly, and having anxiety can increase your respiratory rate. So that's the bad news and good news, because basically you can one can induce the other, and you can have a bit of a downward spiral. But you can also take control of your breathing and, basically calm yourself down. So I'm going to get into a bit of the biochemical domain. So when you inhale, your oxygen climbs, you become more alkalinic, your pH rises. And if you hold your breath, then your CO2 builds up, you become more acidic. And what that does is induce the Bohr effect. So the more CO2 rises in your blood, the more oxygen pushes off of your hemoglobin and gets delivered to your tissues. And because of the Bohr effect, CO2 has an effect of vasodilation. Your arteries and your vessels will dilate in an attempt to get as much oxygen delivered to the tissues. And so as you exhale and get rid of your CO2, it'll do the opposite. Your arteries will constrict. The vessels constrict because it wants to try to hold on to the oxygen as much as possible. So CO2 rising, vasodilator, CO2 declining, vasoconstrictor. So what that means is if you're a mouth breather, you're going to tend to breathe off more CO2, and that'll tip you into the more acidic, the more alkalinic side of things, and you'll be in vasoconstriction, and you'll get less blood flow to your periphery. If you have an elevated respiratory rate, or hyperventilation syndrome was called, then you're going to be tending to blow off more CO2, and again, you'll be in vasoconstriction, which does, by the way, in long term, increase your blood pressure. So breathing fast and or breathing through the mouth both drop your CO2 and keep you in vasoconstriction. And that is one of the things that can cause cold hands and cold feet because of the reduced circulation to the hands and feet. So what can we do about this? Well, first, I would test yourself. I would test your tolerance to CO2. So a lot of people can develop a chemosensitivity to CO2 buildup in the blood. And there's a simple test called the BOLT test, or body oxygen level test, or load test. And it's a maximum comfort breath hold. So what that means is you just take a normal breath in, a normal breath out, pinch your nose closed, and count in seconds how long you can hold your breath for in a comfortable manner. So it's not a max breath hold, it's a max comfort hold. So if you have to take a deep breath in after you've held your breath for too long. So let me walk you through it again. Take several regular breaths, not a deep breath in or deep breath out, a regular breath in, a regular breath out. At the end of the out, pinch your nose closed, count in seconds how long you can hold your breath for until you feel air hunger, that first desire to breathe, or you get some sort of involuntary action like you swallow. That's when the test is over. So do that. You may want to pause the podcast now, test yourself. Don't do this in the car, by the way. See what you get to. 20 to 25 seconds is considered pretty good. If you're at 15 or below, you are probably sensitive to CO2. Elite athletes, I always think of Sha'Carri Richardson. She's a sprinter, Olympic sprinter. When she runs, she's got her mouth closed the entire time at max speed. It's just unbelievable to watch. I guarantee you her BOLT test score is way above 45. So 45 is kind of considered elite. So get your baseline, and then from there, that dictates what you can do to train your CO2 tolerance. As your CO2 tolerance climbs, your respiratory rate should slow down. It'll be easier for you to breathe through your nose. So if you test low, like 13 seconds or so, then just pick an activity that you can do that matches that score. So at that score, probably just regular walking is something you'd want to practice with just nasal breathing, no breathing through your mouth, in or out. And if you can't do that, then maybe you have to slow down the speed that you walk. All right? If you're more 20 to 25 seconds, maybe you can get into more cardiovascular fitness, like getting on a rower and practice nasal breathing only. Meet yourself where you are. So you want to be challenging and slightly difficult to do. You will feel some air hunger. That's normal. Just don't make it so brutal that you just would never want to do it again. Do that over time, and just like training a muscle, progressive overload, and keep retesting yourself, maybe on a weekly basis. And probably about 4 to 6 weeks, you'll start to see that BOLT test score climb, and then your respiratory rate should start to drop. You can also practice box breathing. So that's 4 seconds in, 4 seconds breath hold, 4-second exhale, 4-second breath hold, and repeat. That's another way to build up your CO2 tolerance. You could try some mouth taping at night. I'm a big fan of hostage tape. I've talked about that a lot in the podcast. If you're a mouth breather and you're waking up with your mouth open or your mouth dry, that's a great way to irritate your bronchioles and cause constriction and induce asthma. But also it will reduce your CO2 and cause an increase in your respiratory rate. So that's another metric to look at if you wear something like a whoop strap or an Oura ring. Look at your respiratory rate at night. If it's 16 or so, it's a little too high. What's an ideal respiratory rate? I'd say 12 or so. When you do intentional slow breathing, you want to shoot for even lower than that. So if you're doing some breathwork exercises, just concentrating on inhale, exhale, 5.5 seconds in, 5.5 seconds out, slight pause at the exhale, a natural pause, and repeat. All these techniques are good. Can you do them all? Sure, why not? Just be nice to yourself, because some of these things can be a little bit challenging. So to sum it all up, if you're experiencing cold hands and cold feet, maybe it's Raynaud's phenomenon, maybe not. But the way you breathe can certainly exacerbate it, and working on intentional breathing can improve it. I'm not going to say cure it, but it definitely can improve it. Give yourself a BOLT test, and then work on the breathing drills I mentioned, and then really concentrate on just slowing your respiratory rate down. Most people overbreathe. And these things, I bring this up because breathing seems like such a simple thing, but it's actually pretty complex. And when you look at respiratory rate, the numbers are staggering. So if you breathe 12 breaths per minute, which I consider close to ideal, you're looking at 17,000 breaths per day. If you're breathing at 16 breaths per minute, which is on actually the low end of average currently, and by the way, 12 breaths per minute was the average back in 1988, and now 16 or greater is considered the average. So what's going on there? Maybe stress. Anyway, so if you breathe 16 breaths per minute, that's over 23,000 breaths a day. That's a 5,760 breaths per day difference. That's a huge increase. So that's why the breath work is so important, because the simple act of changing respiratory rate has a huge return on your investment. When it comes to breathing, think LSD, long, slow, deep. That's a good general rule of thumb. A ship in harbor is safe, but that's not what ships are meant to do. What does this mean? It means exposing yourself to difficult situations so you become resilient. If you need help building resilience, check out our flagship program called Physiologic Flexibility. This is a 3-month do-it-yourself program that teaches you how to maximize your homeostatic regulators, such as your pH, blood glucose, O2 and CO2 tolerance, and temperature. We give you specific action items through the program with the goal of becoming anti-fragile. If you want to become the inspiration for your friends and family, this is the program for you.